oh, I didn't need to. So he reckons and he said, like, I go, well, it's like kind of bad weather as well. So like, there's a lot of refraction, humidity. I took one in the good weather, in the sunshine. So he must have been there maybe 4 or 5 hours setting this up. By the time he set it up, it was dark. So I said, like, you start setting it up in the daytime, but really and truly, the footage is when it's dark, and it started to rain. So again, it's like bad weather. You didn't allow for the bad weather. I didn't see you put level, even a bubble level. You didn't have a auto level beside it to make sure that you got it at the right elevation. He said, yeah, I've put it 4 feet above. This is the first thing he said. I put it 4 feet above the water with a yardstick. I said, a yardstick? 4 feet above the water? What kind of yardstick is that then? Oh, it wasn't a yardstick, it was a dipstick. I was thinking, oh, mate, I think you just said you are the dipstick. Yeah, it's kind of a bit mad. But he wouldn't have it. He wouldn't have it that he set it up wrong. I said, like, there's nothing to really talk about. You ain't got no result because, like, you're just like fundamentally wrong from the setup. No.
Yeah, there's this, there's this territory that they can never give up, There's this place you can push them to, like you said, like, dude, you're doing this wrong. It's outside the parameters of, the capabilities of the equipment you're using. And there's always that real estate or that territory that they can never give up, It's like the same thing with the celestial theodolite, where they're just they can't admit it. They can't admit what it is on its face, that it's plain trig, and that the plain trig works, and the plain trig gives you the right answer.
I think even when there's
anyway.
Factoring in the curvature.
Well, one thing I guess I do want to say about Jesse Path of Light, though, is that he does generally engage cordially with people. And when I asked him the question, do you think NASA's budget is money well spent? He said absolutely not. That NASA is a huge waste of money. So I mean, for that alone, I give him credit. He's at least one of those people that's willing to admit, usually Glober, that NASA is a giant fucking waste.
Yeah, he doesn't get angry. But to be honest, he grates on you because, like, so he's saying, like, you say that I set it up wrong, but what if I goes, what if you've got the result you're looking for? And I think you're resting on your laurels, because really and truly what he was saying, because he took the thing down by the water. But I think the water, when you take, and he could have used lasers. He didn't use lasers. He used torches. And the torches, you can see in the distance, there's like blaze, they're like bouncing around. There's kind of a big light because you've got the rain, you've got the humidity, and you're by the water. So, and I think it's a well-known fact that, it can appear to look like it's arching. So he's now got this thing. I put it in a curve calculator. No, it wasn't even a curve calculator. He put it in a calculator, which what apparently architects use to put arches in construction. And I said, like, but you're not in an arch, you're not putting an archway in, so why didn't you put it in a curve calculator? I'll tell you why you didn't put it in a curve calculator, because it wouldn't register. It would be zero over 3.2 miles. So he reckons he's got one tripod, he's got his observation point, he's got his tripod, and he said they're in a line. I go, there's no way they're in a line. Where's your proof that they're in a line? You've got no data. You've just got like a video where you're just walking around and you're on your Jack Jones. It just doesn't make any sense what you're saying. But he wouldn't have it. He just said, no, I know it's right. Then he's got his mate, Shoebill. Oh, man, Jesus, an absolute drip. And he's just adamant. And he's a little bit of a disingenuous person. He's going, oh, yeah, I've worked on this big dam, and you just constructed houses. There's no comparison. I was going, okay. He tried to, I don't know. I questioned him on that, a couple of things, because I'd done a little bit of research about this dam he worked on. And he's just going to answer it. And everyone was going, no, it's this, it's that. And I was going, well, it's clearly when one Google search would reveal what I was saying is true. They wouldn't have it, though. It's just bizarre. I think they just die hard.
Oh, the Die Hard, yeah, dude. Man, dude,
they'd rather be burnt to the stake. It's either it's all or nothing. It's a globe or it's nothing else. There's no in between. Yeah. There's no other thing it could be. But they're all hanging out.
I like the physics part of it, because it kind of weeds out a lot of the people that are kind of armchair Monday morning quarterback type of people that, like this guy that's trying to engage me on another social media site. He's obviously reads the headlines only, and he's just, I mean, just, oh my god. The physics is where the conversation is at, though, because that's where you can really pin somebody down. Because then they got to start using really the difference between kinematics and dynamics. That's what it comes down to. It boils down to. I don't know how far you've gotten into any of that.
Yeah, I don't, maybe not as far as you, for sure. But I will give it a go if they want to say like, let's look, you've got an equation. Let's get into it. Let's try and do that equation. And they kind of start to divert because, like you say, not many of them have actually done the. You know, I'm not the greatest one at maths, but I'll give it a go for sure. Because I think it's all worked
math
out,
is just
isn't
the description. Yeah, math is just a description. It's not an explanation. You see, that's the difference between kinematics and dynamics. Kinematics is measurement. It's just observations of and measurements. So you're basically measuring like the periodicity of the sun, the moon, and the stars, basically. But that's not a dynamics would be an explanation. Dynamics, I can tell you exactly what the forces are that are moving something. So I can make predictions. The difference between that is like kinematics is, like I said, it's measurement. So you're just looking at what is, you're measuring it and you're recording it. And then dynamics is predictive power. You're able to put something together and you're able to accurately predict what happens with dynamics. And that's the thing about physics and where that's where the rubber meets the road type of deal, where
yeah.
relativity is reverse engineered kinematics. It's just an attempt at an explanation of what's happening, but it's not real dynamics. I was just looking at the quote here from Isaac Newton from a long time ago, talking about gravity, but it's the same idea of a background medium. And he says, and this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me, that gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it. Like, the language is even hard to understand the way the guy forms his sentences because it's so fucking intelligent.
That's what I'm going to
So he's
say.
saying, for one body to act upon another at a distance through a vacuum, meaning there's no medium there, he does not want that idea ascribed to him. That he believes that no man who has in philosophical matters a competent faculty of reasoning, basically meaning if you can think straight at all, you could never fall into it. You could never believe the idea that one physical thing can act upon another without a medium.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying here. Oh man, it's just hilarious.
That's why they're split. You find that out when you argue, like when you should kind of having a bit of an argument with them, that they're either pro Newton or the other character.
Newtonian or Einsteinian physics, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
There's special and general relativity,
and then
which are incompatible.
If you say something that you're contradicting, oh yeah, but I'm not talking about him. That don't matter.
It depends on the scenario,
Yeah.
Like, they have to break up relativity into multiple. You can look at it multiple different ways, but they have to have different, like, Newtonian and Einsteinian physics. Basically, how it is, just in a box is like Einsteinian gravity is, the bending and warping of space-time, and that gravity is an emergent property from that. But in Newtonian physics, gravity is an actual force. And so those two things are incompatible. They cannot. One, very specifically in Einsteinian physics, gravity is the bending and warping of space-time, and that is what causes gravity. And in Newtonian, it's just mass attracting mass.
His books to go to cover this is apparently like an unbelievable amount. Like it's just, and it's basically, if you broke it down to layman terms, there's a lot of ifs and buts. Einstein for sure. Is it like it is? It's just a theory that it's a fact.
They've intentionally made it complicated, in my opinion, like, to steer people away from it. It's confusing, and it's confusing because it's stupid.
But
It's stupid to try to explain things without a background medium.
you think these people who have done these physics or like gone and, you know, done 4 years in university to like space physics, for instance, it's like, what's they could? That's why they could never ever just put their hands up and say, like, you know what, we're wrong. What would that? You
Yeah,
imagine all those people? They would be like, be super unhappy. Where do I get my money back? I spent 4 years in a university studying something what doesn't really exist.
yeah. Not only will they not get their money back, they'll lose their job. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
conflict of interest, really. You know, and I mean, I had another guy come in and comment exactly that. And he's like, well, then all these physicists for a living would starve. And it's like, yeah, why are we paying people to, as Nikola Tesla said, wander off into equation after equation until they build a framework that has no basis in reality? That's exactly what we pay theoretical physicists for. To wander off into equation after equation until they've built a framework that has no basis in reality. It's that simple.
well, that's the ever adjusted. You know, like really and truly, I would imagine if you was a great mathematician, you would come to the point where, regardless of all the added things to make it work, it most probably will never ever work, and it will just be like, oh yeah, and it just runs off to 9999. You know, one of them ones. We just stop here. There's a lot of maps. Have you seen that when they just, oh, when we get to 6 numbers, we just stop because it just goes on forever.
Oh yeah, sure. I know what you're saying. It's the limits of math, you know. There's no, I don't know. It's difficult to try and quantify, field pressure mediation, which is like what physics really is, you know.
It's even, some of them just, I said like different days would yield a different result. It has to, because like on certain days you have a lot more humidity. Some days you won't have so much humidity, but you'll have like different atmosphere, and that can have an effect on what you see or what you're trying to, achieve. It's got to impact on it. And they say no, it's the same every day. It's like even yesterday there was arguing, and I was saying like, yeah, the higher you are, the less refraction you get, and the less interference from atmosphere. Except the guy is right by the water, so like, and they say like, oh, late at night you get less, but it's raining. He's saying this is my sun in the sunshine. It was like you couldn't make it up. He said like, so he's got this picture. I goes, yeah, it's kind of a bad day. Like, I've got one in the sunshine. So he steps up in the sunshine, but by the time he's taking the video, it's nighttime, and he's on his own as well. It's like kind of, I felt sorry for him, to be honest, because I know he does try, but yeah, I think he knew what he was setting out to do. That's why he didn't put it in his curve calculator, and he put it in something that apparently architects use to put in archways. You've got this hump. Oh, look, that's curvature. That is. It's unbelievable.
Again, like I said, why I like dabbling in the physics. It's a lot harder to weasel your way out of it. I mean, you have to end up saying things like Isaac Newton pointed out. Yeah. You think things are happening through a vacuum and there's no background medium? Well, don't ascribe that to me. Because I don't think that a man who has competent logical faculties would think such a thing. So he basically says that if you think that gravity acts without a medium, that you're incompetent. That's what Isaac Newton says.
I know that. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think, like I said this the other day, someone was talking about, in a vacuum, and I goes, so what have you got? Have you got everything out? Oh no, there's a few molecules in there. I said, well, it's not a vacuum then, is it? It's like it's a chamber with most of the air sucked out, but there's still air. So even if in that admission, you've got to say that the result would be inconclusive because you can't take all the air out. If you can't take out all the air, then there's no point in saying it's a vacuum, is it? I don't know. That's my opinion. I look at a few things, experiments where they drop the feathers and the ball. I think like, come on, it's like, the ball didn't get to maximum velocity. The feathers was like in such a it wasn't a feather, was it? If he dropped a ball and he dropped a feather, I think you'd see a different result. But because it was a bunch of feathers stuck in something, and you don't know how heavy that was because he didn't put it on the scales. So like the feather and the bowling ball, it's just fucking nonsense. And the geezer's English, and he's an absolute. I think he's just a pretender. He used to be in a pop group, soppy pop group. Then all of a sudden he's just disappeared and come back as Professor Brian Cox.
It's interesting. These people are all scared to actually come debate, you know? Like Robert Bennett was looking for somebody to debate for quite a while, and I think he still might be. I mean,
who's Robert Bennett, the black guy?
No, Robert Bennett. You don't know who Bennett is, bro?
No, I don't.
You
I
need
don't know.
to go over to Ether Cosmology or go over to Alan's channel on Space Audits, and you need to figure out who Bennett is because you need to hear his presentations. Because he's a PhD physicist that basically like found us or whatever and was like, "Hey, freaking, you know."
I know the one who comes in here, John.
Oh, that guy can't hold a freaking torch to Bennett. John, that guy's got a PhD in like astronomy or some shit like that. He's not a physicist.
He was chiming in yesterday.
Physicist, man.
He's going, "You're wrong." And then there was Omnivore. Yeah, all the characters. So you got Omnivore. Mate, he can be sure that you're not understanding things. 100% sure that you don't understand, but can't be 100% sure about anything.
Dude, so when I heard two PhDs debate on specifically stationary Earth and the physics behind it, and the difference between a relativistic framework or using an ether framework, a dynamic ether with a stationary Earth specifically, not talking about shape, just physics here. So the conclusion of the whole debate between PhD Robert Parks and PhD physicist Robert Bennett was over the definition of what dynamics is. And if you think about how people manipulate language and shit like that with their social engineering and stuff, changing the definition of words is how they really fuck with something. And so the fact that they couldn't agree on the definition of a word was like, what the hell? So the crux of the argument is that Parks made the argument, and maybe he's changed his position since then. I mean, I don't know. He probably didn't, but maybe he did. He said that dynamics makes predictions, but they don't need to be accurate. And that is absolutely false. That was the crux of the argument, where dynamics, if you're talking about dynamics, you're talking about proper dynamics in physics, and you will get the right answer if you have proper dynamics. And so he said that relativity is dynamics because it makes predictions, but it doesn't need to make the right ones. And that's just fucking bizarre.
It was even yesterday. Oh, today they were saying like, "Oh, you said test. Is it a test or is it an experiment?" I said like, "Whoa, he's carrying out an experiment to do a test, so it's a bit of both." I don't know. It was like, what are we arguing about? Whether it's a test or no? It's important. Okay, we won't call it anything then. I'll go, look, there's the guy down there with his tripod and his theodolite. A couple of... he's got a... Well, if you saw him set up how he set it up, it's laughable. I said, you can't conclude that you tested anything, that's for sure. The only thing you just demonstrated your incompetence of being able to safely set up something, you know, if you wanted to make it bulletproof, you could have done X, Y, Z. No, you don't have to do that. It's not unnecessary. I goes, no, it's very necessary actually. I goes like, look, at the end of the day, you're testing by the water, and that's not a good test in itself. So
yeah, if you want somebody to expound upon the theodolite and that thing, Taylor just came in here and she is a little more well versed than me on that one.
Yeah, she must have saw Jesse's thing because I know that she speaks to Jesse. But I would imagine she can look at the video and tell you it's just, you know, I do construction and there's no way that what he done amounts to anything. It was like a guesstimate, you know. Even the water it had like it was like being at the sea, not so much, you know, it had a small ebb. So it's like rippling in. And he went, yeah, it's kind of flat. He said and the best thing, the first thing he started, he said like, I set the cameras 4 feet above the water with a yardstick. So my first impression, I was thinking, a yardstick? Isn't that 3 feet? So I questioned him on it. I said, what, you set it up 4 feet above the water with a yardstick? Yes. I goes, but I don't know. Like, tell me a yard is not 3 feet. Oh yeah, it weren't a yardstick. It was a dip. Did you imagine if you had said that you'd have been laughed off the planet? But because he said it, oh no, it wasn't a yardstick. It was actually a dipstick with some markings on it. Fucking crazy. But he posted it in his little channel. They got the Jamaican guy, Robert. He's made a channel, isn't he? So they're all in there. There's just so many of them. If you try to go, you should go in there and have
wait, hold on. What? Robert made a channel?
Jamaican guy.
Are you serious?
I fucking, you know they were all had the ump with him, didn't they? They all didn't like they just thought he was a joker. Now they're all hanging out in his fucking channel. I swear to God.
The circus full of clowns over there.
I kid you not.
Oh, man.
Someone invited me. So I popped over. It must have been Robbie inviting everyone. But all the Globers are in there, all together. You know, like, I just didn't say nothing. I was sitting there listening to a few things, and then Bluebill's taking counsel and saying, so, right, guys, what's your favourite number one, globe attribute where you can define the globe without a shadow of a doubt? And I'm thinking, like, everyone, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people in there, so I'm waiting for, all these answers. No one even says anything. I was thinking, wow. But yeah, they just want flat earthers to go in there. Because I even said, they were going, you're a flat earther. I said, like, you're saying I'm a flat earther. I'm just saying that I don't believe we're on a globe. And we're on a stationary plane.
We should go in there and refuse to talk about flat earth and talk about only physics and see what happens.
I got banned. They banned me.
They invited you and then they banned you.
Yeah, they banned me because, like, oh man, it's like, you imagine, I've said, even just saying that, the experiment. So it's an experiment. Is it an experiment? Or was it a test? I was going, oh my God. I goes, well, he's carried out an experiment because he's doing things and he's testing something because obviously he's got like machines what measure. So he's going to test for something. I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to argue whether it's a test or an experiment? Kind of bit backward. I don't know. I think they just love to argue. But it's like more semantics than, But yeah, if you get bored, go over.
Where are you talking about?
Oh, and the Jamaican guy, Robert. He's made a channel, and all the Globers are hanging.
The debate chat last night?
I don't know what it's called. I can't remember. They banned. I only lasted like a night and a morning. I was questioning Jesse about him doing some like theodolite test, where he wasn't using the theodolite as a theodolite, just using the telescope from the theodolite, and then he set up a couple of like tribal. Oh man, it's like, honestly, you should have a look at it, Taylor, because like it's beggars belief. I said like like it's just a demonstration of incompetence. There's no way that you can think that you're going to get anything from what that is. It's just a failure. It's like you're set up completely wrong. I go, regardless of what you think you see, we're not going to talk about that. I'm just talking about how you set the thing up. And he wouldn't have it. He said, no, I've done it right. I said, oh, you're crazy. But yeah, let me find it. You could just most probably look in the live chat, because I can still look in the live chat. Then you can see, if you just put his name in there, you could like maybe look at it. You have a look at it yourself, and I think you'd know straight away. It's like, you ain't going to get any results from what he did. There's no measurements involved. It was like guesstimate and stuff. Yeah. Is it called Hot Topic? Hot Topics? I think it's called Hot Topics.
Yeah, I can't say I have any kind of desire to go over there.
No, I don't. Like, there's just a bunch of Globers. They're all going to try and mob you. As soon as you declare what you believe in, they're just all, and they're kind of like passive aggressive at first.
Yeah. The Discord channel is called Hot Topics. I was recently invited to it.
Yeah.
Hot Topics.
You can take my place. Be my guest. It's just, I suppose if you're bored, you could go over there and have some fun. That's for sure.
I see some both skeptics or flat earthers on this side. So some of them go there.
Yeah, I see that. They're just in the background, not saying too much, but yeah, I see that as well. Oh, look. I've manifested one in. Snooze, what's happening?
Wait, Shlitzy. Just wanted to tell you, you have
no.
not been kicked. You have been timed out for calling people names and threatening people to punch them.
I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah, and that's why Omni timed you out. You were not kicked.
No, I don't know what. I think I banned myself, Snooze, because like, look, you're very disingenuous. You said like, I read one of your posts. That's right. That's the only reason I went in there. You said like, oh yeah, Shlitzy said he could make a concrete. I've never laid concrete in my life ever.
You said with the you claimed the self-leveling concrete over a very long distance, and we were talking that a few months ago.
Right, me and Jeremy, there was you, me, Jeremy. We were talking about self-leveling concrete. And I said, even with self-leveling concrete, when it dries, it's still... If I had to lay my soul plates on a self-leveling concrete, I'm sure at some point I would have to pack up my soul plate. And you know what a soul plate is? It's just like a piece of, like a 200 by 45 piece of wood, which I'm going to put a timber frame kit on. But I would imagine I couldn't screw that directly to the concrete because I've never been on a slab, and I most probably built 20,000 houses. I've never been on a concrete slab and been able to fix without packing up that. So my first thing is to find the highest, like the highest point. Then I'll go from there and pack pack what's necessary. But I've never laid concrete in my life. But I've seen people.
I remember this discussion a little bit differently, but okay.
Yeah, well, I think you got confused because I said the only way that you could most probably do, the nearest you're going to get it, because like, look, there's different ways. They'll pour concrete and it'll have steel in it, and then what they'll do, they'll have it looks like a buffing machine, and it's called a power floater, and they'll float that, But I ain't got a clue. I've never laid concrete, never screeded, even when they do the screed, I've never done that, so I wouldn't, I've seen them do it, but I've got no idea. I'm a carpenter. I only know about wood and about level.
Okay.
That's why I was arguing today, because like that test, what Jesse did, is fundamentally flawed. And I don't know if you're... and Shoebill is very disingenuous. And what I said, when I said that the military was in charge of that dam and they were overseeing the engineering of that's 100% correct. There's no ifs or buts. You can Google that. So unless Google's telling you lies, because I don't never been to the dam, but if you Google it, it says that it was a military, and the military was in charge of overseeing the engineering.
But overseeing the engineering could also just mean like reviewing it. And
yes,
if you work on an engineer on a project like a dam, independently, if you're a surveyor or any other minor engineer, you may be never in contact with the main architect or engineer of that whole dam, and you may be never in contact, not a single time, with anyone really in charge of the project. I have done big projects, not in construction, but in electrical engineering and in buildings and so on. And as a subcontractor, you work with your contact person. You do your job. You do whatever they have ordered. You do your factory and your site acceptance or your site acceptance test there. You get your signature, and then you go. Yeah, you have to limit your stuff. You don't talk with the upper levels.
Okay, let me tell you about construction, yeah? And when there's multiple companies involved, because if anything goes wrong, there's going to be an inquiry. And if anyone dies, there's going to be an inquiry, which will be the most fullest inquiry, and it will include corporate manslaughter. And if anyone dies,
that's why you have multiple review stages there.
Yeah, so that's why you would have
worked in electrical installations in buildings, and electrical installations in building is definitely something where people will die very easily on if you make it wrong compared to a timber frame or so. So you can do horribly wrong stuff in electrical installations in buildings, and this is checked, and someone finds it.
I build massive blocks of flats, It's not just one silly house with one person in it. There's like blocks of flats, and not one block of flat. They're all joined. So
Yes.
it's like houses, but like blocks of flats. And they've been massive. I've got massive ones. I've done small ones. I've done massive ones. But like really and truly, my point is that so like when you've got a lot of companies in there and they're doing similar things, they'll have weekly meetings where you have to sit in there and you say your thing or you put in your concerns, and there will be someone taking the minutes, or and after that meeting, say if it's an hour or 2 hours long, you will get the minutes from that meeting. And basically it's assigning you to certain responsibilities, because if there is something going wrong, they'll go back on those meetings and say, well, look, it was discussed there, and you're going to be held responsible.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
literally the project lead. So if we were, for example, doing a house, and I did electrical installation and video surveillance there, and when we worked there, even as a important person or an engineer in the project, where, for example, made the plans of the whole system and so on, I was not part of the meetings. The meetings were held by the project leads, by the project lead of the electrical team, by the project lead of the plumbing team, by the project lead of the construction team, and so on. So these were the lead people, the managers talking to each other, and maybe also the lead engineers of these different how do you call these like teams or responsibilities. But not every worker, not every surveyor is working in these meetings.
Yeah, but I didn't say every worker, did I?
Yeah, but
So
you claimed Schubel should know the senior engineer of this fucking dam.
But
Why should he know him?
But I asked him, who did he work for? He didn't even tell me who. I worked for myself. And that's not true, was it? Because he didn't do. I asked him, who'd you work for? It was a straightforward question. It's not he's not doxing it.
Does he needs to explain his employmentship or his partners?
And he's posted stuff on the internet, documentation with his real name and everything. Because I've found his stuff on the internet, and I said, "Oh, is this you?" And he said, "Yeah, that's me. It's my name." I went, okay. But he's a little bit disingenuous as well. The other day, he said that he'd done some tests and all the measurements were himself. And I thought about what he said. I can't remember it exactly, so I can't recite it. And I said to him, I just got one question for you. And I said, did you use GPS? And he said, yes. And I said, well, therefore, you didn't use all your own measurements. You used GPS, and that's not your measurements. Anyway, he just ran off.
Yeah, because that's pointless. You say
pointless.
if you use GPS, you cannot claim that you do your own measurements or what?
No,
if you use a ruler, you also have not done your own measurements because the ruler made the measurements or what?
Is that what you're going to argue over? This is what we was arguing about. Was it a test or was it an experiment?
GPS is part of measurement equipment.
See, what you would rather do, you'd rather argue the point of you didn't make the measurement because you used the ruler. That ruler isn't attached to you, so therefore you didn't make. Come on, what kind of argument? It's like super wishy-washy. He said, and let me almost paraphrase what he said. He said, I didn't use anything else. Every measurement I used was mine, where I sourced that, I took that measurement, so I know they're my measurements, no one else's. That's what he basically said. And I just, because he said something, and the way he said it, I thought, I bet he used GPS. And I said, I just asked him a question. Did you use GPS? And he went, yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean with he used GPS? Like he just measured stuff on a map, or he was on site?
I can't remember the context. I can't remember the context. He knew because he ran off. He ran off.
I just want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So if I would, for example, do reciprocal zenith angles from one point looking to the other point, and then from the other point looking to this point, and I try to figure out the distances between these 2 points, and I would use GPS to figure out if I'm 1 mile, 1.5 miles, 5 miles, or 10 miles apart from each other, and I would find out this by finding my location via GPS. Would you then say I didn't do this measurement myself, or is that not what you meant?
No, but you wouldn't make a big declaration that you'd done all the measurements with not using any device or anything when you clearly did.
But
so Why
Did he
would
say
you?
without using any device? Then it means with his own hand or what?
Well,
Because
that's
GPS,
if you want to
are you
argue about
claiming that
that.
GPS is not accurate or what? Or are you claiming GPS is
No,
just NASA
right.
stuff?
Look,
Or
this is what I'm claiming. That GPS assumes you're on a ball. Yeah.
GPS give you a pretty accurate position on the land.
You go on. You nearly
You're
said it.
using
Go on.
GPS
I don't
all
mind
the
if you
time,
say
right?
it. You can say it if you want. You can say GPS would most probably work on a flat surface or a ball.
It doesn't matter. The point is you can
Well, it
verify
does,
that the
doesn't it?
GPS is correctly positioning you in the area. You can go to a certain spot, you can check your map on your phone and you see that GPS is kind of accurate. You can buy a more precise GPS system and you can pinpoint your location with GPS. Then you walk 10 meters, then you look on the GPS, it tells you 10 meters, and then you can measure on the ground and it tells you 10 meters. So you can verify how accurate GPS is and what's the margin of error of GPS.
Well,
You can directly check that.
I can't remember what he said, but what he said was not in conjunction what he made earlier. The
But
declaration.
if you accuse him not to doing his own measurements only because he said he used GPS to find out his location, that's ridiculous.
Oh, this is what I said. He said something about. I go, did you use GPS? And he went, yes. And I goes, therefore, you didn't use your own measurements, did you?
Yeah, but that's a stupid claim.
But I goes because like I think it was establishing like he said like it was something like he declared that he established curvature or no that's proven curvature. I goes, but how did you do that? How did you establish that you was on a ball before you assumed you were on a ball? And that was what it was. It was the assumption, you know. And he batted on. Oh, they were all my own measurements. And I goes, did you therefore used? Did you use GPS? He said yes. I goes, well, then you must have assumed that you was on a ball then, for sure. So it's not using your own measurements. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong or something. I don't know. I don't think I'm on a ball.
Okay, that's fine.
If I thought I was on a ball, I'd like to establish beyond any doubt that I am on a ball.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a test to do that.
Yep, that's fine. I just wanted to also inform you you are still welcome. It was just like
No, I'm not coming back.
the kind
So
you were walking,
you've
you were
blown
talking
it.
at that point was just not
You're
acceptable.
to tell Omnivore he's blown it. I told him if he bans me, I'd never come back. So you have to find another flat earth victim to. And I didn't even say I was a flat earther, and everyone, hey, you're a flat earther. It's a little bit horrible.
Okay.
You can't mob people and expect, you know.
I think it's hardly mobbing, but okay, that's fine.
Well,
If
I just know how to stick up.
if you feel like that,
I
absolutely
can definitely
fine.
stick up for myself. I'm kind of thick-skinned, so I'm not going to cry.
For sure.
That's for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah.
Hey, Snood. Are
Anyway,
you guys
go
talking
back and
physics over there?
yeah, do you
Sorry,
talk physics?
Are you guys
You talk
talking
physics?
physics over there?
What are we talking?
Are you talking
Physics.
about physics on your channel, whatever that channel is?
Yeah, it's channel from Rob. Yes, also.
Let me ask you a question, an honest question. Put your hand on your heart when you answer this, Snooze.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Before, all the Globers thought Robert was a bit of a lunatic. And they were like, especially that two-faced character, Pazza. Yeah, he's an absolute lunatic. Now you're all in there sucking up to him because he's making a channel. I don't get it. I don't get it. First of all, you think he's a lunatic. Now you're all in there loving him, lapping it up.
I don't see anyone kind of loving him or kind of praying to him or whatever. And I think, I mean, I'm not sure if I would call Gem Panda a lunatic, but he has his situation. But still, I'm sometimes on his server, so I like how Geo I like how Geo behaves, but I don't like everyone here in this server. So I'm still sometimes here.
Yeah, but
what has
Geo's
the one
kind
with
of
the
a
other to do?
gentleman, isn't he?
Yeah,
Geo, he kind of like can compose himself in a good way. Whereas some people, like, come on, you must admit, sometimes it gets a bit frustrating, like repeating yourself and going over the same thing, then hankering on one word. And I'm saying, oh my God, it's like this. It is kind of brain draining sometimes. But there's also good conversations, you know, there's like good conversations where no one's calling each other names and they're just like trying to find
Yeah,
You know,
that's the problem when you go to Gem Panda. So everyone is shouting at each other and 10 people at the same time, and that's what I like here typically.
yeah. Well, you saw what happened earlier, and you see how I sort of reverted to defending myself because everyone's jumping on. I'm asking one person something, 10 people are answering. That's not correct.
I do agree there, and I mean that's
Even
but yeah, it's sometimes how you shout into the forest, and sometimes how it's echoing back. But yeah,
well, no one, and you know, like when I was even questioning, you know, I only asked him 3 questions and he said yes to everyone. So you know, and then the overall one, I don't know how we skipped from the overall was I was happy with the test. Yeah, we hadn't even got to that part yet. And
yeah,
I was never.
yeah,
Sorry.
and in my opinion, the error in your logic was so the correct thing is that you ask him all the stuff about how to level the measurement device itself, so the auto level or the total station and so on. So what to do there, but then the error in your logic was that you came to the conclusion that the flashlights need to be leveled, which is just not the case.
No, the
Flashlights is just
flashlights. The
the height
flashlight.
of the flashlight is irrelevant, not the level.
Right, listen. The flashlights didn't have to be level. What needed to be level was the tripods, and they
No, also that
categorically.
no.
I can post you something now. And it will prove exactly that I'm telling the truth.
The tripods of the flashlights are just like the flashlight height is something that is relevant. So if the flashlight is 4 feet above the water, and you have
Yeah,
the
but
other flashlight, so we for the others, we are looking in one line at the side of a calm lake. We are looking
no,
with a telescope,
it
and that
wasn't
telescope
calm.
has a specific height of 4 feet.
That
And we are
wasn't
looking
calm.
with the telescope in one direction, and at halfway we have a tripod with a flashlight at 4 feet above the water, and then at the full way, I don't know actually what the distance is, we have a flashlight at 4 feet above the water, and both these flashlights are looking in our direction. But what
Yeah.
was observed is that the middle flashlight appeared higher than the one behind. And you now say that the tripods of these flashlights need to be leveled so that the experiment is valid. And that just makes no sense, because the only thing that you have to apply is the height of the lamp of the flashlight. It doesn't matter if the tripod is level or not. Only the height to the water is relevant, because that's the only thing that you are measuring.
Oh my god. Okay. That's why you live on a globe and I don't.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because what is not necessarily true. I can post you something right now. I can give you like 3 pages why that experiment is wrong, and it should
Okay,
have been
great.
conducted properly.
Go ahead, post
Uh,
it. I will
I
read
got a
it.
question. Can I ask Snooze a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Do you think it's better to do a shorter distance experiment or a longer one in regards to what you guys are talking about?
In regards of distinguishing the flat Earth from the globe Earth?
Yeah, do you think which one, like, what's the best difference?
Absolutely longer distance, because when we do longer distance, the difference between the error and the actual measurements is getting greater and greater all the time, because we are not talking about linear increasing curvature. It's because it should be a ball, so you have more than exponential kind of curvature. So if you go further, you get better distinguishing between flat and ball.
I would definitely agree with you on at least that point. The further you go, the more easily you're going to be able to tell.
Yes. Because on short distance, for example, on 50 meter, like a 50-meter pool, and you want to measure curvature of water, it would be nearly immeasurable, because it would be like 0.2 of a millimeter or so, or even less. Not sure. So on short distance, you cannot distinguish those two. Absolutely not.
So you must admit, when a surveyor starts surveying, he doesn't do long distance. He will most probably do 300 meters or yards, whatever you want to call it. He will most probably start out like that.
It
But he will
depends
do
on.
his overall distance as the long distance shot. But I'm sure that he wouldn't just go and do a long distance shot and say that's my measurement.
It
I would
depends on what
imagine.
you're surveying. It depends on what you're surveying. If you're surveying, for example, like country borders or stuff like that, or if you want to survey like the topography or so, you definitely do more long distance stuff than short distance stuff. But if you're just kind of measuring, I don't know, roads or how do you say, like the land of a person, of course you only do short distance stuff. Why should you do long distance stuff? It makes no sense.
Because it's about accuracy. You can do your long
No.
to verify that
more. Wait a second. That's a big misunderstanding. The accuracy is better on short distance. On long distance, you get an increasing margin of error, but the actual surface of the Earth is way more curving away on the globe, if it would be a globe, just theoretically. If it would be a globe, and you would have a kind of a linear increasing margin of error. For every meter, let's say we get 1% margin of error, but we get more than that 1% curvature. So when your actual measured value is increasing more than your error is increasing, you got, over a longer distance, you get a better noise value distance than you have on short distances. Because on short distances, your measurements are within the margin of error. You basically cannot measure curvature in 100 meter or even a kilometer, maybe. You have to go way longer than that to definitely distinguish our two worldviews. But of course, in 10 meters or in 100 meters, you can survey way more accurate than over 10 kilometers. Because you have angular measurements. And if you're 2 arc seconds off, 2 arc seconds over 2 kilometers is a lot, but 2 arc seconds over 100 meter is nearly nothing.
How about, like, you know how they say boats go over the curve when you're on the shore? Do you believe that?
I've seen that, yes.
Okay. How about when Neil deGrasse Tyson says that you can't see the curve from like 62 miles in elevation? Do you believe that?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't believe that, because I was at the shore in the Netherlands, and I was looking there to a tanker that was kind of shipping on the horizon. There was ships behind it, and there was a bungee tower there, and you could go up to the bungee tower. And once I went up to the bungee tower, the tanker was way in front of the horizon. The horizon was way behind the tanker, but it was still a sharp horizon, and I could see more of the ships behind that tanker. And then we took the elevator down, and I again could only see half of the ships behind, and the tanker was back at the horizon. And that is a direct observation of curvature.
Where were you?
I mean, you increased your angle.
At Den Haag Beach in Scheveningen.
Oh, Den Haag.
Yes.
It's like me saying, dude, I could see further when I went to the top of the mountain.
I'm living in the Netherlands, and when I'm standing on the 9th floor of an apartment building and I look at the next town in line, and that's more than 10 kilometers away, that church tower is way in my line of sight. So, bullshit.
But when you stand on you stand on what was it, an 8-story building, you can see 10 kilometers away. What is
yes,
there?
I can. In the Netherlands, I can see 10 kilometers away. I can see from Eindhoven to Nune, and that's more than 10 kilometers.
Yeah, and what is the problem with more than 10 kilometers? There's no problem with more than 10 kilometers.
That there is no curvature. When I look at the church tower, that is amount the same height as I'm standing. I'm not looking at over the top of that church tower. I'm looking at in that church tower.
Yeah, have you measured your dip angle with a theodolite? Or have you just
there is no dip
eyeballed
angle,
it?
because I'm looking straight ahead. So I'm looking straight ahead at an object.
Yeah, so you have just eyeballed it, right?
I don't think you need a theodolite.
You have not
I don't
measured it.
It's ridiculous.
Your
If
eyes
I put
are
a laser
pretty.
on that 9th floor and I shoot it at that church tower and I measure that point it hits, it's going to be at the same height as where I'm standing. That's what I'm telling you.
So you tell me that you have measured with a theodolite that you had 0 degree and 0 arc minutes of dip.
Sir, if you're measuring with a theodolite beyond 50 meters, you're always off. You shouldn't use that thing beyond 50 meters.
That's bullshit. And your eyes, by the way, are really crappy distinguishing angles and heights over longer distance. You have no possibility to tell with your eye if something is at your eye level or a few arcs, a few degrees above or below. Absolutely no possibility.
Snoozy, you're not going to tell us there's an eye level meter or something.
What?
There's a machine to measure that?
What point of sight is your focal point.
Shlitzy, come again, please.
No, go on. Answer. Chris will say something to you, so that I was just like chiming in. But like, I would answer her. She's the one who's got the question. She's like,
yeah, what? She just said that she eyeballed something, a church tower over 10 kilometers away. She couldn't make any distinguishing between 1 degree above or below or at her eye level. That's absolutely impossible for a human to tell that. So what are we arguing here? Do a measurement, do a proper measurement with a
your
device
camera,
that can
they
actually
all
measure level
hold on.
and horizontal and a dip.
Let her say
your
what she's
eyes
going
and
to say.
camera
then.
lenses have a focal point and a focal length. That's the point they focus on. Your eyes do exactly the same. So when you point your eyes straight ahead, you're going to look straight ahead. You're not going to look around under an angle. That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
the focal length and the focal point has nothing to do with horizontal or looking up or down.
Your focal point is where you're looking at. That is your direct line of sight.
Yeah, and you can look up and have something sharp, and you can look down and have something sharp. Those are your focal points, and that has nothing to do with looking horizontally.
Because you think we're curving when you look horizontally.
No, you can stand on the fucking ground in front of your church, look at the cross at the top of the church, or the cockadoo or whatever is at the top, and it's still sharp in focus of your eyes, but you're looking up. The focal point has nothing to do with
We're not saying you're
horizontal.
looking up. I'm telling you, I'm on the 9th floor and I'm looking straight ahead at a church tower and I'm looking against that tower. So that tower, I know that tower, the height of that tower, and it ain't higher than the building I'm standing up. So I know that is a direct line of sight, a 90-degree angle at an object.
You know that because you eyeballed the 90-degree angle, right?
No, I know that because I have a focal point of light that is a direct line of sight.
Yeah, and you did not measure anything. You just looked at a church tower 10 kilometers apart from or away from you. And by looking to a
Yeah, and
church
the Netherlands
tower,
is as flat as flat. There is
yes,
no
I
curve
know
here.
that I know that the Netherlands is flat. But by just looking to something, you cannot tell how many degrees is above or below your line of sight or below
So
your
what-
horizontal point. It's impossible for humans to accurately
What
tell
you are
if you're
missing
looking
on that
horizontally.
distance, that church should be down, lower than my focal point of sight, straight ahead. That church shouldn't be visible if your Earth was curving, and that's what you're missing.
yeah, I think that's what you're missing. You're overlooking
Oh,
that.
oh God.
Because you're what about your curvature? Or don't you now allow for curvature?
Come on, Shlitzy, don't be so dishonest. If she don't get it, I'm fine. But Shlitzy, you know it better. You know how to apply
Right.
a level. You know how to apply a level. And if you put a spirit
So
level, and if you would even point over a spirit level that you have leveled before, I would give you that. Maybe. Still, you would be inaccurate at least in 30 arc minutes or so. Half a degree up or down, a spirit level is not accurate enough. But just eyeballing it by looking straight is really a stupid claim to say that's the same height. Have you, when you do your carpeting, do you just eyeball the fucking stuff or do you use tools to measure it? Because your eyes are not actually telling you how it works. Be honest.
I'll be honest. I'll
You
be
don't
honest
know
with you.
how high a
Sometimes
church
I've just
tower is
whacked
and
it
how
in.
high a flat apartment is, then that's ridiculous.
Oh, God. Yeah, go on.
You know, carpentry is a bit different. You can eye things, and they're within reason. So that's most probably not a good analogy to use. But if you're talking about long distances, I don't know.
If you make a breakout for a window or a door, are you eyeballing it or are you using a spirit level?
Well, if I'm breaking out the wall, I'm not using anything. I'm using a hammer to smash it out. Then when I go to put my window in, put my window in with a level.
Yes, and that's exactly the point. Once it's necessary to apply something, to make something level, you would use a tool because your eyes are not effective enough. When you put in the door, you would use the spirit level on multiple sides of the door frame to apply it correct.
So you see what you're now saying? I'm now going to go back to Jesse's experiment, because now you're saying that you need to be a level, but with Jesse's experiment, you don't need to be level.
No.
Do you see the discrepancy there? It's okay.
No. There's absolutely no discrepancy because the door has a door frame and the door frame is a line and that needs to be actually level or it needs to be vertical. It needs to be
So
The
plumb,
building,
right?
the
So
building is built level.
that the door is not diagonal. It needs to be plumb. But
So
the point
the
of
two,
light, it's just a point. It's a single point. There is no point in leveling a point. It just has a height.
but how do you know, right? Because like it's very, very weird, yeah. That the things are not in line. They're not collinear. That's for sure. Yeah, there's no way they are. So there's your first, flaw. The
It doesn't
second,
matter if they are side by side. If they are if they are
they're not side
collinear
by
enough
side.
to see both flashlights, the
Right,
only relevant is how is the height of the flashlight compared to the water, which is claimed to be level. So if water is applying our level, you just have to apply the height of the flashlights. The light itself, so that the batteries of the flashlights don't need to be level. It's just
right.
the point where the glowing lamp or the LED is. That height needs to be applied. There is no point in
Yeah.
leveling anything there.
And you see what was going on with the flashlights. You see what was going on with the flashlights. You have an apparent glare, or you don't know which was which. You have the little round one. You don't know if that's the actual lens of the flashlight, or is it a projection? And the thing what was fuzzing around, maybe that was the lens of the camera. I mean the torch. You couldn't
So
you
camera
from
lenses
that
are
video.
working symmetrical.
No,
So
not
any
camera, is it? We're
distortion,
looking
any
at the
distortion. Wait a
torch. We're
second.
looking
Wait a
at the
Your
second.
light from
eyes
the
do
torch.
not, and the floor you're standing up isn't level. So then everything is level, not?
What? What did you claim?
I say
You
if
could
you're
talk-
standing on a level floor and your eyes are level next to each other, then everything is leveled out, not?
No. Because you can stand on a leveled floor and look a little bit up or a little bit down, 1 degree up, down, left, right. You couldn't make or couldn't tell a difference.
But
I know
in
90-degree angle when I'm looking.
Okay. You are superhuman. That's fine. I give you that. You're awesome.
See,
Yeah.
what you're arguing against her, you should be arguing against Jesse's experiment, because like what you're saying to her, that's not true. But in Jesse's experiment, which is similar to what she's saying, oh, it is true. You don't need to be level.
Okay, Shlitzy. The theodolite or the telescope that he was looking through maybe needs to be leveled. If you want to
No,
tell a deviation, wait a second. If you want to tell a deviation from horizontal, you may want to level how is it called? The lens you're looking to. You may want to level it, but that was not what he was testing. He was not testing a deviation from horizontal. He was just testing, if I looked from one end to the other end, is the middle point above, below, or on the same height?
yeah,
So
but
you only need to have the heights of these points. He was not checking if it deviates to the left, if it deviates to the right. You could
you
also
was
make
happy.
this actually. Wait a second.
Stop going on. You said too much.
Wait
You
a
don't
second.
have to keep going on.
You could
said
do
like
it with a light bulb. You could
a
do
mini
that with a
point.
small light bulb, and that light bulb has no flashlight attached to it. It's just a stick in the ground and a light bulb at the top. If you measure the height of that light bulb, there is nothing you can level. It's just a single stick, a single pole in the ground, and you put a light bulb on top of that. What do you
Right?
want to level then?
Can you stop? You know what you're right. Remember when I was talking to Shoehorn, yeah, and I said to him about leveling the tripods.
Leveling tripods for total stations or theodolites.
No, hold on. The total station, right, has an application in it that if you're on basically level ground or near as B, it will self-level. Yeah. If it needs to be adjusted because like it's kind of at a deviation that it won't self-level, then there's screws on there which you will adjust.
Yes,
and then
until you are in the
it will
security area,
reset
and then it will
itself.
level up. Yes.
Yeah. So like don't and plus on your total station you have 2 levels. Yeah, to get the theodolite set up correctly. Yeah. So within reason, you could pull out the legs and boom, you're on. And I didn't see him. He told me that he measured from the middle of the lens of the torch, and then there was a discrepancy. This is all the discrepancies, right? You've set up your observation point at point A. Let's just call that point A. Yeah. At point B, it's 1.5 miles away. 1.5 miles away.
Yes.
Yeah. He don't know. Well, I would imagine he with his theodolite, but he wasn't using the theodolite. He was using the telescope. So I don't even know how he smized that was 1.5 miles away. If you want to talk about measurements, tell me how he knew that was 1.5 miles away.
By
He didn't
by using GPS for locating.
No, he didn't use GPS. Now you're not telling the truth, because I said to him, "Did you use GPS? What did you do? What would you use GPS? It's not necessary."
Yeah.
And then I said,
you know
and do you know what his answer was? Do you know what his answer was? Do you know what his
He-
answer was?
Yes, he said it's not necessary because a total station has a laser rangefinder on it.
Yeah. So, and what wasn't he using?
But you were not asking
No,
about.
hold on.
Wait a second.
Look, you've just
You were
answered your
not
own question.
asking
You
about
just
that.
answered the question. He
No.
wasn't using the total station. He was using the telescope.
Correct.
See, this is
and
where.
Shlitzy, here's the dishonesty. You
How's
were
it
asking
dishonest?
him. Wait a second. You were asking him specific questions about surveying and setting up surveyor equipment and setting up total stations, setting up reflectors and tripods, and so on. That was a general question about how to set up your surveying equipment. And then you try to apply the same rules to the experiment that he presented to you. But to that experiment, these things don't need to be applied, because we here are just talking about lights on a specific height. It was not about
and you
it was
can't
not
be
about applying
100%.
horizontal and so on.
You can't be 100% sure that he was 4 feet above the water. Did you see how he measured 4 feet above the water? He had a yardstick. He said, "I measured 4 feet above the water with a yardstick." Let me ask you a question. How many feet are in a yard?
So our sticks, they are
How
not
many
called
feet's in a
yardsticks.
yard?
I
How many
don't know.
feet's-
I don't use freedom units. I use proper units. We have 2-meter sticks. And yes, you can measure with this foldable stick 4 feet very easily.
What would you call a 2-meter stick then? You ain't going to call that a yard. Would you call a 2-meter stick a yardstick?
It's actually called a Zollstock, and 1 zoll is I think an inch. So it would be called an inch stick, even though we use meters here.
Well, I would imagine. I don't know. What would your
And you're a carpenter. You know that you can measure with a yardstick more than 1 yard, right?
right?
You can make a mark, and then you can measure from that mark again.
But he wasn't doing that, was he?
Oh, because you saw him watching that, or what?
Look, right. There's no mistaking. If you've got a dipstick and it's over 1 yard long, you can't then start telling people I've measured with a yardstick 4 feet. That just doesn't make. That's ridiculous. Now, if I would have said that and I said, you'd laughing, but because Jesse, no, he gets to buy, yeah. So this is just ridiculous. Who's being dishonest now? You know, I don't care about. You're not being dishonest. I tell you what you are. You're actually.
But you know, actually, that there are
No.
even these foldable yardsticks, right? There are these foldable yardsticks. You know that they are still called yardsticks.
No, the only way a yardstick is called a yard is because it's 3 feet long, yeah, and it measures 1 yard. That's a yardstick, yeah. There's nothing else for it. You don't call. I've got a foot stick here. It's 6 meters long. No, that's not how it works, Snooze. Yeah, you go into a shop and you go, I want a yardstick, because they still do them. Especially, I would imagine they still do them in America, yardsticks, because they work in feet and inches. And I would imagine you can go in there and you can get a wooden rule, and that will be a yardstick, and that will measure 3 feet. And he had a piece of metal. In his own admission, he said it was a dipstick. I think the only dipstick here, Jesse, is you, with your incompetence to set up an experiment or whatever you want to call it, a test or whatever he's doing, and it just displayed his incompetence of him thinking, like I've seen a few of his tests, and believe me, they're kind of comical. Yeah, I see the one where he had like replicas of mountains, where him and his brother were 6 million miles away. I think his brother was on the moon or something, or like on a mountain in the moon. And it's 250 miles away. Oh, mate, he's just pointed it up to whatever he fancies. And then
he never said it's 250 miles away.
I don't know what he said it was. It was
No,
7 million.
That's just stupid, Shlitzy.
It was a light year away.
I'm bored of talking about this stuff. Talk about it with Schubel, or talk about it with Jesse.
I don't want to talk about it.
You don't understand the experiment, and that's fine. If you
of
don't
course I don't. That's your final conclusion. You just don't understand. Yeah, I guess I don't understand. I don't understand globe theory because like you just make it up as you go along.
No, actually, I think you just don't want to understand.
Look, he
but that's
didn't.
also
Why
your
didn't he
choice.
put? Right, look. So the conclusion. So he said like, "Oh, I've established curvature." Why did he use an architecture calculator for putting in archways? Why would he do that? Why wouldn't you put it in your little curving calculator for the Earth curve?
He just presented you an experiment that you yourself can just do on a calm lake, and without a theodolite, just with a normal telescope, with a normal tripod and a normal flashlight. You don't
wouldn't
need laser
listen,
pointers or anything funky.
listen.
No. Now listen.
No. Just let me finish.
Why are you
because we've
interrupting me?
heard you. Because you just go on and on. You're like an
No,
old
I just
record.
wanted to do my final statement, and you just
Oh, go on
interrupted
then.
me directly in the middle of what I want to say.
Go on then.
So,
Sorry.
He normally presents you guys stuff with theodolites and very professional measurements, and he's not arguing, he's not getting personal, and everything. Yeah, he's one of the most honest people that I have experienced in all these chats. You're still calling him a liar. Now he presents. Wait a second. Now he presents an experiment that you yourself can do because it does not need any specific funky equipment, and you are just rejecting it because you don't want to listen to him. You call him a liar, and if this is your method, go with it. But I'm done talking about that with you.
So,
Oh my
Snooze,
God.
do you have the Holy Spirit in you?
Nope.
Okay, so you don't, if you don't have the Holy Spirit in you, why should I listen to anything you say?
You don't have to. You choose yourself visiting this channel and listen to me. You could just walk away.